So what do you think? You ready to go back to the office?
No.
So what do you think? You ready to go back to the office? Yeah, that's pretty much what I think a lot of people are saying. And I asked the question because the number seems kind of high to me, right? A new survey shows 43% of Canadian workers said they would likely look for a new job if they were forced to work from the office on a full-time basis, which brings the whole idea of a hybrid work
model.
schedule, right, into focus. AJAY Pangarkar is a workforce performance strategist. He's on the line right now. AJAY, welcome back.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Natasha. So you guys are hybrid, right? Aren't you hybrid right now?
Yeah, we're
not.
no-brid is what we are. I have been working from home for now over 2 years. Natasha, how long for you?
It was a year in January.
Okay. So
And is Brian also at home, or is he in studio?
No, Brian's got to be at work because you can't press the buttons from your house. So that's a little bit of a different situation. But for those of us who can or can't be, I know, for example, at Bell here, right? Most people, a lot of people will be heading back actually by as early as next week.
Yeah.
So when I look at a number like 43%, okay, that seems like a pretty high number. I wonder what that signals to employers.
Well, it signals a lot because it's getting a little bit frustrating because I think I said this to you before, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Remote work works. And I think some employers are struggling with that fact. People have been working remotely for the last 2 years, mostly, of course, administrative and white-collar kind of jobs. Nonetheless, they've been working remotely, and they've been performing equal or even sometimes better than when they were in the office. However, the employers now want them back in the office, and in my opinion, because I'm from a finance background, they've invested a lot in their office space. They're tied into leases and real estate, and when you have all this huge capital investment, you don't want people working from their home because now you have to invest more money to have them work from their home because you have to buy them computers and desks and so forth. And you want them to bring them back into the office, but there is a more insidious reason, I think, why they want them back in the office.
Oh, do tell.
I'm sure you would like to know, Natasha. And it's more because they're still under the old school impression that performance equals presence, meaning that if I see you, then I can make sure you're working. And we've been proving this for the last 2 years that people can work at a distance. But it's this old school mentality where you have to show up at a location, spend an hour and commute one way and an hour back and show up in an office.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think people, what they realize, Aaron, that you've just mentioned at the beginning, is that people are going to be looking for more flexible work environments. What I mean by that is that some people will want to go back to the office, probably not full-time, because they enjoy the flexibility of dealing with their family and other stuff that they have to deal with, their personal responsibilities, which allows them more latitude and more life. Because remember, when we were working 40 hours a week in an office, the weekend was committed to catching up on our personal lives. And so now there's a little bit more of a balance, I find.
Yeah, what I find really interesting, AJAY, is that some people really are chomping at the bit. Like Elias Makos that we work with, he's back on Monday morning. He asked, okay, we're in the sixth wave. Does that mean it's getting delayed or can I still come back? He's ready to go. Other people, like Aaron and I, are a little more hesitant, and where we feel like we're functioning fine at home. So why are employers not kind of adapting to what employees want? Is it ultimately this thing that you said, sort of like exerting control and an old school mentality?
Maybe a little bit because, first of all, the hybrid is going to take place because if people like Elias, and fair enough, people want to show up in the office. Some of these people like the interaction with their coworkers in person, and that's fine. I'm personally not one of them. I like the autonomy and being on my own and so forth. But there are people who love being in the office, and fair enough. But now the reality is that we have to show some flexibility. We have to show some adaptability. And why employers are not flexible, I struggle a little bit to understand that. For example, as you know, I'm in Ottawa, and the mayor of Ottawa is pushing the federal government to force all their employees to come back to work because the downtown core is basically empty and businesses are suffering. And I understand that.
I do too.
But at the end of the day, there's got to be a change in mentality, change in infrastructure. The government is not going to bring people back full-time, meaning when I say full-time, into the office. They're going to allow a hybrid workspace. So your whole infrastructure has to now evolve around that. And we're probably going to see a generational change. We're going to see in the next 20 years things like transit plans or public transit plans changing. We're going to see downtown infrastructure changing. We're going to see a lot of things evolving in the next 10 or 20 years because of this hybrid workplace. Now, to answer your question, Natasha, Number one is that I think there's still an old guard of management that still thinks that being in the office means that you're actually working. And unfortunately, that's a reality that still exists.
I've actually heard that story, though, right? From people saying, yeah, my boss thinks, hey, you know what? I don't care about this hybrid stuff. You better be here because we don't get as much done. That's still there.
And what I think is wrong with that, Ajay, is that you can prove them wrong. I mean, you can actually show that your productivity goes up when you're at home. And then the other point of it with the hybrid model, where that makes so much sense to me, is maybe if you're only downtown or in your business center, like 3 days a week or 2 days a week, I bet you're going to make the most of those 2 days in a way that you wouldn't if you were there every single day. And so much that you'll be like, hey, I'm downtown, I'm going to go out for lunch. Hey, I'm going to run some errands and pick up a few things at the local shops on my break, Is that coming into play at all, that it could actually be better economically speaking? Well,
I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's going to change, guaranteed. So the whole economic model, I'm not a soothsayer here, and if I had, a dime for every time I predicted something was right, I'd probably be really rich. But I don't think I'm right all the time. But the point being is that things are going to change significantly. And to your point, Natasha, we have proven for 2 years that we can perform. And if I can give any advice to employers listening right now, get out of that old school mentality. Get out of that whole they have to show up to work. If you hire good employees, then that's on you that you should be trusting them. And if you trust them, then you'll set up performance objectives. And if they meet those objectives within timelines that you decide on, then it doesn't matter where they do their work. I mean, it really doesn't matter because it's the objectives that you're going for, not the presence. And so change your mentality today. Otherwise, you're going to be at a dinosaur of the employment model in the next 10 years.
Well, I hope some bosses are listening. I would also, and not as a question that you can answer, but this idea that you brought up right at the top, you know what? There's a lot of employers, a lot of businesses sitting on a lot of leased space that's just sitting empty, and I'm sure that must drive them crazy every day to realize, I don't need this, but I can't get out of this lease anyway, so please come back to work. But that's a discussion for another day.
Well, very quickly, Aaron, if people want to look it up, look at the renewal leases on the Empire State Building. The prime number one property in New York City. There are lease non-renewals right now happening. They have a lot of vacancy opening up in the Empire State Building just because of this cause. And so people are rethinking about that. So there you go.
Ajay, thank you so much. You have a good weekend.
You too.